Hi, mine's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the plight of touring British performers again and how you may have seen something in the news that sounds like progress but actually isn't. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the government have announced progress in negotiating the ability for British artists to perform visa-free in a number of EU countries. The EU offered us an agreement during negotiations, which we turned down flat. Now we're trying to pretend that we're negotiating something similar. So what they're saying is like 19 EU countries have so far agreed, with the remaining 8 still in discussions. That's how the government are presenting it. So too, alarmingly, is how the media is presenting it. Even the sections of the media that generally know better than just to parrot the government, they seem to be going along with it. But I'm going to go over what is actually being claimed and then try and explain how nothing at all has actually changed. And British performers, as well as the industry supporting them, is just as buggered now as it was half a year ago. So what were the problems at the start of the year and what is the situation now? Well, the first focus is on actually being able to travel to the EU to do anything, but perform in this case. Because we are now citizens of a third country, unless you're eligible for an Irish passport, in which case you're good to go, we're only allowed to be in the EU for 90 days out of 180. And that's the whole EU. We can't just flit from one country to the next. Once you've been in the EU for 90 days, whether it's all in one go or multiple trips, you can't go back until the next 180-day period. So has that changed, at least in respect to performers? No, that's still the same. This is why the government are saying it's now possible to take part in short-term visas, short-term tours rather, visa-free. They still can't have more than their 90 days per 180. That's still the same as it was. So then there's that visa issue, as if that's the problem. This was never the problem. If you're just going for those 90 days out of 180, you don't need a visa anyway. You may need a work permit to work in a job in a particular country. Hence, I suspect why they're saying, well, these 19 countries, it's fine. These other 8 we're still discussing with, because it was fine there anyway. They were already allowed to perform there as long as you followed all the rules of a third country. It's not like how mad is this? How insane is this? Like Australia, for example, famously do not have a deal with the EU. Famously don't have a deal. So when we talk about when the government were talking about an Australia deal, what they meant is a no-deal Brexit. Australian performers perform in the EU. Of course you can perform in the EU if you fill out all the right paperwork, get all the right authorities and so on. That's fine. We can do the same. It's just very, very costly. It's not the visa that's the problem. So saying that, oh, great news, musicians can tour for 90 days out of 180 visa-free in 19 countries, it's meaningless because that was never the problem. So this also doesn't represent progress. The problem fundamentally, if I can put it in a nutshell, is that British performers used to be part of the single market so could just go around wherever. They're now in the same boat as performers from third countries around the world, like Australia, for example. That's the problem. Third. So why have we only got these arrangements for the 19 EU countries with talks still underway for the other 8? The reason is that the EU don't actually have any rules on travelling performers. Contrary to what Brexit supporters seem to think, the EU don't run the affairs of member states. All the EU is to maintain a common framework of rules to operate the single market so that all those within the single market get these benefits of membership without anyone getting sneaky advantages, and that all those outside of the single market face common restrictions so that there's a benefit to being inside the single market. If we were in the single market, the touring wouldn't be an issue because we'd be free to work in any EU country long as we like, as much as we like, just as easily as we can in our own. Because we've left the single market, we are now subject to the rules of the individual countries, their own rules. Now, before I move on, it is important to bear in mind again that the EU haven't actually changed any rules for us in this regard because it's nothing to do with them. And the 19 countries that apparently we've got this visa-free deal of haven't changed any of their rules either. Because these rules, when we're talking about rules that a country has, by the way, remember what we're talking about. We're talking about laws. Are they suggesting that 19 parliaments have changed the law to help us out? No, nothing has changed. Nothing's even been claimed to be changed. Whatever talks the government think they're banging on about haven't resulted in any difference for performers now compared with in January. So the visa issue is a complete red herring because nothing has changed there. No rules for British performers has changed in any EU country, so nothing has been secured as a result of these mythical talks. Performers can only tour for 90 days, which was the case back in January. So what are the other issues? Well, a huge issue for performers is actually getting their equipment around on tour with them. I don't know what quaint notion people have of touring performers, but it's not someone with a flute in their backpack. There's a fair amount of equipment to take with them. There are rules for that, and those rules are not helped by anything the government have announced here. The problem in this regard is I suppose, one big area is duties and VAT. How do you get a load of stuff into the EU without incurring huge duties? A big issue is merchandise, like performers expect to make a significant chunk from the sale of goods, and that means duties and VAT. Duties can still be applicable if the merchandise falls foul of rules of origin. Don't think, oh, tariff-free agreement, Phil. No, let's be honest, this merchandise is going to be made in China, isn't it? Of course it will. And that means that duties are payable. Also, regardless of anything else, there'd be VAT on it. And that is liable to be paid on all of it, even though you'll go there, you'll sell some merchandise and come back with the rest. Well, they don't know how much you're going to sell. You just pay all of it. So you need then lengthy paperwork to sort out, the stuff you didn't actually sell. Lots of paperwork to take care of that. And the paperwork applies to almost everything. The onerous amount of paperwork to get you and all your equipment and your support staff, everyone going with you to your destination is bad enough. If your tour takes you through different EU countries, guess what? You'll need to sort out the paperwork for each one. And because it isn't EU admin, it's down to individual countries. They all have the different forms, all different fees, different procedures in every single case. And remember, this is paperwork they didn't have to do inside the single market. If you want to film the event, that's more permissions needed, fees too. Plus different countries have different rules anyway. So something you can do at a performance in one country, you wouldn't be able to do in another country. Again, you've got to make sure you know what you can and can't do and get the relevant permissions. It's not just a case of filling in a few forms. You aren't guaranteed to be able to do the same things in different countries. So your tour of different countries might mean different performances, really. Essentially, what British performers face is huge extra costs in the form of fees, duties, VAT, the cost of hiring people to handle all the paperwork. You don't think the performers are going to sit down with it all? This makes it unprofitable for less well-known artists who cannot command high fees to compensate for it and are shut out altogether. It's of no help to them to be told, good news, you don't need a visa in these countries to carry out a short tour, when they didn't anyway. It's not visas that are the problem. Then you have the time to actually get everything arranged. Of course, a large tour by a major artist or group of performers will be planned well in advance. But smaller performers, they could be more reactive in the past, taking gigs at relatively short notice. Oh, can you get to Belgium next week? Yeah, sure, no problem. Not now. It takes too long to get all the paperwork sorted out. So the bottom line is that if we think the industry is as large performers who have already made it, and then small performers who may be up and coming or may just be small performers, the larger performers will have massively increased costs, which make the tours less profitable. So sometimes, some tours will go ahead or won't go ahead when they would have been before. But it won't stop them, just like it doesn't stop Kylie Minogue, for example, touring Europe if she wants to. And however, those tours will be limited in scope because they won't be turning as much of a profit. Or they'd have to charge more. Maybe they can just command higher fees. But they still would be limited because that 90 days limit isn't just for the performers, but for anyone. So if part of your support has to go, get out there and set things up ahead, of course, that sounds sensible, prepare things in advance. Well, that worker is still only allowed 90 days in there. And if they're needed throughout the whole tour, then your limit is not based on the performer, but the team or any worker. So short tours only is the key for any British performer without their entire entourage having EU passports and them included. I suppose major performers could hire a team comprised entirely of EU passport holders, to make it a little bit easier. But smaller performers are likely priced out the market altogether still. The government haven't announced anything that solves the problems. Don't imagine that performers can now do what they did in these 19 EU countries with the promise of the rest coming to agreement at some point in the future. The problem was, in January, British performers had to follow the same procedures as Australian performers. Here we are in August, that's still the case. I don't know what the government think they've announced, but that's still the case. It's that simple. This is a complete fraud. And what makes it really bad is that so many have been taken in by it. The government announced this thing and everyone jumps at The Guardian, who are usually decent at holding the government to account, reported it as a positive. Oh, fantastic news. Anti-Brexit group, Best for Britain, doing the same. Oh, this is all thanks to the hard work of these people. A group that's actually supposed to pay attention to Brexit goings on. It's absolute insanity. You'd expect some munchkins in the Mail or the Express to talk this up, not those who are trying to be frank with people about Brexit. But there it is, a worthless announcement, does nothing, and has been enabled by media outlets who really should have known better. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.